I just realized that this is the first time I've spoken words today. And it's not coming out beautifully. All right, let's try again. Hello, world. You may be wondering to yourself, Papa Jack, where is your camera? That would be a fantastic question that I have yet to answer because as we moved last week, I have not yet been able to locate my webcam. And we'll get there eventually, hopefully by next week. But for today, we are going camera-less. But that aside, I might have to indulge, or you might have to indulge me for just a moment as we join together, and you're going to have to trust me whenever I tell you that I am going to have a sip of something to drink with you. And what I would like for you to do is, if you want to enjoy this live stream to its absolute maximum, if you would like to experience the height of humanity, the culmination of civilization, that is Cheers with Chaps on Live with Jack, then what you need to do is you need to grab yourself a beverage vessel of any kind. It could be a glass, it could be a cup, it could be a mug, it could be a bottle, whatever it is that floats your boat, and fill it with your favorite liquid. Personally, I'm having coffee today. I'm a bit tired and hungover, but fill up your favorite drink and join me now for a Cheers with Chaps. Cheers, boys. All right. Now, was that good for you? It was good for me. So let's go ahead and get started with the lesson. This feels really, really weird to me without the video present. But now I'm definitely just talking into the ether. That's okay. It's not the first nor the last time that I'll ever do it. But let's jump straight into the lesson. So today, what we're talking about is we're talking about whether or not you should lie to girls. This is a really tough one because some people will say you should always lie to girls, and some people will say you should never lie to girls. And I actually fall quite in the middle. However, I'm going to explain to you when it is useful and when it is not. When is the right time to lie and when is the right time to tell the truth. So let's just jump straight into it then, shall we? So the fact is that you should not lie to girls as a rule. As a rule, don't lie to them. But also, get good enough. Oh, Jesus. Get good enough that you can break your own rules. So, what does that mean? Well, whenever you are chatting with a girl, when you're chatting her up, especially on just your opener, whenever you're first opening up and getting things going, and she asks you, what do you do? What's your job? If you want to lie to her and tell her, I'm an assassin, that's perfectly fine. If you want to lie to her and tell her, I'm a doctor, less so. Why? What's the difference? There is no moral difference here, obviously. But what is the difference between those two things? The fact is that when something is very obviously a lie and it's being told for the sake of fun or entertainment, then we accept it. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. It's the same reason that we accept actors, singers, anyone who's putting on some sort of a fake front, basically lying to us in order to entertain us. So, would you hate a singer for singing about heartbreak that he's not feeling right now? No, of course not, right? He's putting on a show. And so you too can put on a show whenever you are talking with women, but only if it's obvious. This is the big distinction. So if you tell a lie, then if you tell a lie so small that it could be misinterpreted as the truth, then it's just a lie. But if you tell a lie big enough and bold enough that it can be obviously discerned as as entertainment, as a fun time, as something silly, then it's entirely acceptable. Now, whenever it comes to actually being in a relationship, actually, you know what? We'll get to that in a minute. Because I can't jump from just the opener to relationships. No. So whenever you first start dating a girl, should you lie to her? What if she asks about your body count? How many girls have you banged before? That is an obvious, tricky question. In fact, it's a bit of a shit test because there's no good answer to that. If your answer is too low for her, then you seem inexperienced. Then you seem like somebody who maybe doesn't deserve her. And if your number is lower than her number, then now we're in some serious questioning territory. That's a hard one. But if your number is too high, then you also run the risk of damaging the relationship even more. So, how do you deal with a situation like this? Do you lie? Do you tell the truth? Well, there are a few ways to deal with this. One is, I'm sure you guys have heard of the rule of three, and that, I think American Pie made that one famous, right? Where a girl will divide her number by 3 and a man will multiply his number by 3. Okay, fine. If you really want to go that direction, you can. I'm going to tell you what I've been doing for about the last 8 or 9 years or so. I figured this one out when I think I was about 26 or so. And what I started doing with this question is, if a girl asks me for my number, how many girls have you slept with? How many girls have you hooked up with? I would tell them all the same thing, which is, okay, I'm not going to lie to you, but before I answer your question, I want you to think, do you really want to know the answer to that question? Because if you do, I'll tell you. But I'm telling you now, you're better off if I don't answer this question. And 90% of the time, it has actually just stopped them dead in their tracks. And they've said, yeah, you're right. I don't want to know. I don't want to hear that. And then the other 10% of the time, you kind of know it's a doomed relationship. So it's just a hookup and have your fun and then move along. But I wouldn't lie. I wouldn't lie about that. I feel like when you're dealing with more important, well, what seem to be more important to the person, style relationship questions, it's generally best to tell the truth or to reframe the question entirely. But to outright lie is not going to actually help you any, and it would hurt you down the road. So the only real purpose to lies is that they will help you in some way. They will boost you. And so in lying about something like your job, you do boost yourself. Obviously not in telling a lie, but an entertaining lie. And you can entertain her better, and she will be able to connect with you more because she realizes, oh, this guy doesn't take himself too seriously. If he tells me that, oh yeah, I'm a professional Waluigi cosplayer. Like, okay, that's a motherfucker who doesn't take himself seriously. He's here to have a good time. I'm here to have a good time. That works fine. Obviously, if there were any way to get paid to be a professional Waluigi cosplayer, I would have figured it out by now. But since that is not the case, it is clearly an obvious lie. But it's a fun one, if she knows who Waluigi is. Wouldn't count on it, but that aside, the purpose of the lies is to boost you or to amplify the interaction in some way. Pardon me for a second. I need to drink some water. All right. Sorry about that. I had a few frogs in my throat, it seems. In any case, so the purpose of the lie, the only real reason to do it is to bolster the interaction, to boost it in some way. Whether that means boosting her opinion of you or making it more fun. Now, lying to boost her opinion of you is a dangerous game. Because if you lie about anything, well, actually, about anything, she's going to remember it. Chicks have they have a mind for this. They remember stuff that you wouldn't even consider a blip on your radar. And not only that, but they will bring it back up over and over and over again. So, case in point, I had a buddy here in Korea who would often approach girls, and he would approach them and say, "Hey, I need your opinion on something. I'm trying to get a gift for my sister's birthday. Do you think this skirt would look good on me?" Funny line. I like it, right? It's perhaps too clever by half. Because the problem was that sometimes he'd then keep meeting these girls, keep dating them, and then they're on like the fifth or sixth date. And then the girl would ask him, "How's your sister? How is she?" And he would get blown out of the water because he's like, "What are you talking about? I don't have a sister." And she's like, "Hold the fucking phone. Did you lie to me?" They remember this stuff and they will bring it back up later. Guaranteed. So it has actually blown him out of relationships that were otherwise going well because he lied on his opener, which is insane to me. But also, if someone lies to you from the outset, what reason do you have to believe them later? A fair point. So, as a general rule, what I would advise is don't lie, but tell lies. Tell fun lies. Tell white lies. Tell interesting lies. Whenever she is asking about serious things, either reframe or answer them honestly. Now, there's a couple of ways to go about things like this. So let's go back to the body count question because that's one that we brought up earlier. If she's asking your body count, you can either reframe in the way that I said before, or you can just give a straight, honest answer. And it's entirely acceptable for your honest answer to be, "Oh, I have no idea. I lost count when we got into the triple digits. I have no clue." Well, that's fine. That's honest. And you own it. This is the important bit, is that whenever you get that temptation to lie, that means that you are sensing some kind of, for lack of a better word, some kind of trap. You sense that there's something wrong with this question. This is not a straightforward and honest and unambiguous question. So there's a few ways to go about it, and one of them is just to own it. Whatever the situation is, you should just own it. And this actually does come back to the confidence and congruence that I've talked about many times before. Another thing that you can do as a it's not the best solution, but it is possible to use it occasionally. You can't use it regularly, but every now and then you can question the motives of the question. So if she asks you something that you don't want to answer and you instead question her motives, like, why do you want to know that? What's driving this? Where is this coming from? Are you looking for a reason to be pissed off at me or something? Right? And you can do that. And occasionally you'll be able to, if you're skilled, wiggle your way out of a question. But I don't advise that. And here's the reason why. The question will always come back. Because remember what I said earlier about girls remembering shit forever. And if they ask you a question, it's because some thought, some niggling thought, just wormed its way into their mind, and they have decided, well, I need to externalize this onto him. And so they become like a pit bull with his jaws locked onto something. They will not let it go. They will not be satisfied with a non-answer almost all the time. So you're going to eventually have to answer. And the more evasive you act, the more suspect your answer eventually seems because of that. So even if you're willing to answer the question honestly, it feels like a bit of a forced confession in a sense, which is going to throw doubt on the veracity of your statements. So again, while you can apply these strategies, I highly recommend that you not. And instead, just answer honestly and own it, or reframe the situation, or just outright lie. But if you lie, and this is the big but, if you lie about something important in a relationship, you need to own it forever. You need to remember that lie. And don't think in the moment, okay, I'm just going to make something up now and then I'll be able to remember it forever. It doesn't work that way. Instead, if there is a question that you would prefer not to answer or that you would prefer to lie about, like how many, so again, the body count question, it's the easiest one here, then you need to, in your mind, pick a number, tell yourself that is the number, and try your best to actually convince yourself this is the truth. And then anytime anyone asks you, the answer is always the same. Lies are found out in their inconsistencies. So if you must lie in a relationship setting, you need to keep the same lie until the day you die, which is exactly why I do not recommend lying, especially not if you drink like I do and have the memory of a goldfish like I do. Because if I try to lie, I will definitely forget it, and I will definitely fuck it up later on, and I will get found out, and it will ruin other things that even didn't have anything to do with that lie. It doesn't matter. It will ruin a lot of shit. Girls like to tie things together that way. So you have to be very careful with this. If you do choose to lie in a non-entertaining way, if you do choose to lie to either preserve yourself or to make yourself look better in some way, you need to own it forever. There is no possible way for you to tell a lie now and then somehow wiggle out of it later. You need to own it, and that is just what it is. So, given that, quick little recap here for today's lesson. Lie for entertaining purposes. Lie to have a good time. Make shit up because it's fun. That's fine. But whenever it comes to important things, you need to either tell the truth and own it, reframe, or lie till you die. Those are your only options there. Personally, I do not recommend the lie, but also I understand it if you do it. With all that said, we are going to go ahead and wrap up the lesson for today and bring in the panel for today's Q&A session. So let's bring them in, beginning with the kid and
Hello.
Big Rich, also
Hello,
known
indeed.
as Lemmy Winks, the Anus Destroyer, or whatever your name was.
The Gerbil King.
The Gerbil King, right? That's basically the same as what I said. How you doing?
Great, yeah.
Good, good. I know you weren't here for the beginning of the stream, but I actually still haven't found my webcam after moving in, and so that's why I am videoless today.
Yeah, I was wondering what that was about.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate situation, but there's basically this is the downside of hiring a moving company to do it all for me is that they've put things places, but not necessarily in the places I would have put them.
Yeah.
The kid, how are you, buddy?
I'm good. Just finished going to the gym, so a little tired, but I'm good.
Nice, nice. That's good. I'm curious, what is your profile picture? It looks like a samurai with two hard-ons.
Those are swords, but yeah, I don't know. I just picked something random.
Okay. Fair enough. All right, so for questions, what do we have today, the kid?
So I don't actually have a ton of questions. But I was just kind of scrolling through Twitter,
Uh-huh.
so I found a couple things here and there. So one of the questions I found is, why do some people, and this is kind of like just me seeing a couple different things like come together, but why do some people seem to struggle more in the States or like just in general, kind of in like the North American countries compared to where they go kind of abroad to like Europe or different parts of Asia?
Supply and demand, basic economics. I mean, sexual economics in this case, but it's supply and demand. The fact is that in America, all of the women have been sold a fake bill of goods. They've been told you deserve the very best. You're a queen. You're mighty. You are perfect just the way you are. You don't need to lose weight. You don't need to put on makeup. You don't need to do anything, and you still deserve your 9 or 10. And they can hop on Tinder, and every now and then, like enough times to justify that lie in their head, a really hot guy will just show up, bang them silly, and then leave. And so in their minds, they develop this thought of like, right, well, I deserve the best and I should never have to settle nor improve myself. And so they basically take themselves off the market to anyone who's a 7 or lower. In other countries with eyes, basically, they they are far more aware of their actual standing. Like out here in Korea, look, busted girls know they're busted. And not only that, but hot girls think that they're busted too, because there's not a media constantly telling them, oh, you're perfect just the way you are. And so they tend to undervalue themselves as opposed to overvaluing themselves, which means in their minds they are in the market for far more men than their Western counterparts.
Got it. That makes sense.
That was a surprisingly coherent and succinct explanation.
That was very succinct and good explanation.
What do you think, Big Rich?
I
Yeah,
think
actually, I'm curious. Yeah, I was just gonna say, is it similar in like the UK too? Because it's probably a little different in parts of Europe compared to North America.
what was the question again?
So it's why do some people like they struggle in North America, right? And then they'll go abroad and they can do better. So that was kind of Jack's answer,
Uh,
but I don't
right.
know.
Yeah.
How does UK fall into that and versus Europe?
It falls into it massively, like a massive jumping in a swimming pool. I don't know if that was a correct analogy. In the UK, yeah, a lot of men struggle to find women that they're attracted to. If they want to find a feminine, feminine's very hard to find in the UK. So if they go abroad, choose abroad, for example, Asia, they can find feminine women who automatically are attracted to and then desire, and then the feminine women desire them back. So yeah, it's exactly the same. They clear up simply because they're also attracted and they have the values that the women want. And there's no like pushing on them vibe like UK women will. UK to a lot of women around the world. In that sense.
Yeah. Do you have any have you been to like other parts of Europe? Like does the rest of Europe kind of match UK, North America, or is it mainly UK and is in line with North America? Rest of Europe's kind of a mixed bag.
Western Europe.
Western Europe. Okay, that's what
I do great in Europe. I mean, I seem to get on really well with French girls, mainly because it's just different culture. It's more exciting, isn't it? It's always nice to date the exotic if you're in your own backyard the whole time. That's why people go abroad as well. It's just like too exotic. That's why if an English person just goes to America, because American girls they get turned on by the English accent. It's the same if an English person somewhere in Eastern Europe, and then if someone from Eastern Europe goes to London, they've got that cute different accent, or French girls, whatever. It's all about the exotic, the taste of something new.
I think that that's also a very big part of this, because it doesn't matter where you go. I mean, if you actually want to find a girl for a serious relationship, then anything west of Berlin it's an absolute shit show. Why bother? But there is an element of the exoticism of the new, the interesting, the different that exists throughout all of this stuff. And so, yeah, like Rich was saying, if an Englishman walks into New York, then by virtue of his accent alone, he is deemed more interesting than someone who is a native there in the country. I almost said Native American. That's not what I was going for there. Too many co-opted terms, but you get what I mean. And you do have a little bit of that over here in Asia as well. And some guys, especially on Twitter or Reddit, basically incels, will talk about white god status, and you walk over here, and then girls just want to lick your balls because you're a white dude, and it's like, no, that doesn't exist. They are slightly more interested, and you might be able to get some hookups with uh, foreigner lovers. I mean, it's literally a whole type of women. And so I'm not downplaying it, but also that does not springboard into actually creating a relationship, at least not on that basis alone. So you do have to consider that factor, that yes, whenever you are in another country, whenever you're in another culture, you are new, you're different, you're exotic. There's something special to that, yes. But for actually building anything worthwhile, it is basically meaningless.
Got it. So it just gets you if you're struggling to get your foot in the door, it might help a little bit.
Yeah, it might be. But here's the thing, is that just as often as it's not, it can be either a benefit or a detriment to you, because there are plenty of girls here in Korea who will not talk to you because you're a foreigner, will not talk to you because they don't speak enough English, right? And so for everyone who does, who is interested, I'd say that there are probably 4 or 5 who will not be interested in you because of that. So is it overall a net benefit or a net detriment? It's hard to say because you obviously won't pay attention to the girls who pay you no mind, right? The girls who aren't interested won't even show up on your radar, and the ones who are interested will show up much more on your radar. But I think at the end of the day, you just kind of break even.
Okay.
Sorry, I have so much shit in my throat today. Maybe I got the Rona.
Not again.
Oh, not again.
Yeah, right. For like the third time. Also, last night I was so excited because I hopped into a taxi to get back home, and the taxi driver wasn't wearing a mask, and I wasn't wearing a mask, and he didn't sweat me about it. And like, no, it was glorious, almost back to normal. But
Yeah.
98% of the country is still like, oh, the Rona, oh, it's so scary. You have to wear a mask.
You should buy a shirt where you just says "I have COVID" and just walk around.
I have COVID. If I were gonna go for that, I would double down on it, and it would just be a T-shirt that says "I gave your mom COVID."
Walk around no mask wearing that. That'd be funny. How many people actually just avoid you?
You know what, I think, and this is just my sense from having spoken to people and the conversations I've had. The actual number of people who really truly give a shit about it still over here is like none. But in the same way that everybody on Twitter is offended on someone else's behalf, not for themselves, the same idea is here in that, like, well, I'm not worried about COVID, but I'm wearing a mask because what if someone else is worried about COVID? And so they're basically protecting themselves on other people's behalf is their mindset. It's
Yeah.
no one actually gives a shit whenever it comes down to it.
That makes sense. Kind of makes sense, but okay, interesting.
It's just
interesting psychology.
The Korean way, it seems.
Interesting. Okay.
So what's on next, the kid?
Well, to be honest, I didn't have a lot of questions today. I just got back from the gym, but let's see. I'm trying to think of something off the top of my head, actually. So when it comes to, I mean, I don't know if we mind the travel questions, but I'm actually kind of curious about Rich, because Rich, you were in Korea, then you went to Thailand, right? And then you went back to Korea.
Yeah.
What's the biggest difference you noticed between the two?
Oh well, in general, those are two very striking differences. I mean, in Thailand, God and worshipped everywhere, and everyone polite and it's also a completely different mindset over there in terms of the foreigners who are there versus the ones in Korea. That's also very different. Generally, people in Thailand just sounds more happy. There's less mask wearing. It's just having a good time. Over here, it's a bit more. I'd say. In terms of women, too much about that on this. Since you're gonna shoot, but Do you mean in terms of like meeting women?
Yeah, like what's the difference? I'm just curious overall, like what's the biggest difference? But
Okay,
yeah,
I'll tell you the biggest difference. The biggest difference is dating apps. In Korea, if I do a boost on Tinder, for example, I don't get many matches. I don't get many likes, and those who do like me aren't my type. To Thailand, and I do a boost. Every boost is 200 likes. So what if I was to play just the dating app, me as a person, I'd have way more success in Thailand. When I was with them over there last time, they were playing the apps constantly, and house party, you just literally jump on Tinder, and it was like basically for cool people who wanted to hang out. But obviously in a struggle to get people to meet up, and also in Thailand people are more down, so like they will meet you within hours of matching if you send them messages, but very less spontaneous. Like girls would want you to schedule them in, like a fucking week, fit you into their fucking diary. But so you have to advance in Korea most of the time, but in Thailand you could do spontaneous, like in the do you want to hang out, and then people will come, like of all nationalities basically.
got it. Interesting.
Yeah.
Now, let's not downplay the risks, though, because in Thailand, you do have to make sure that she's really a she. It's not an insignificant proportion of the general populace, and it's dangerous as hell because listen, some of the hottest girls in Thailand are dudes. They do a really good job of faking it. And so, to that point, the first time that I was in Thailand, I went to a bar. I traveled in by ship, so I was in Pattaya, which is
Yeah.
famously just a fucking Sodom and Gomorrah level absolute shit show of a town. But I went to a bar there, and they were like, "Oh, is this your first time in Thailand?" And I was like, "Yeah, it is." And they're like, "Do you want a free shot?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do." And they're like, "Okay, cool. So here's how this game works. We're gonna line up 5 girls here on the stage. Now you need to pick which one is actually the girl. And if you can, then you get a free shot." And oh my god, I failed miserably because like all 5 of them were just smoking hot girls, right? Like, what the absolute fuck is this? And then turns out 4 of them are fucking dudes. So just definitely be aware that in Thailand, there are other things that you may not have considered that are a risk over there. That's not to downplay it. Thailand is an absolute glorious country. I love it. Just, also be aware.
Okay, interesting. Interesting.
So
Very interesting.
now I'm actually, if you don't have any questions, the kid, I'd like to address something that I got through a Twitter DM yesterday.
Yeah. I'm just kind of riffing.
Okay, all right, cool. So this fella messaged me and he said, I'm in a big city. But because of the local culture here, day gaming is pretty much out of the question. And night game kind of doesn't exist because of the lack of drinking, again, with the cultural thing. And so I think I need to focus entirely on social game. And what I told him was a couple of things. First of all, forget the idea of social game. Like don't try to game within your social circle because that's a terrible idea. However, using meetup groups, right? Like meetup.com or couch surfing, things like that. Basically, things that put people together based on similar interests is going to work well for you. But let's go back and address the fact that you think day gaming is not an option. It absolutely is. And this is, I think, one of the biggest misconceptions that guys have is they think that day game is like going up and trying to just harass women and hit on them all the time. And that's not what it is at all. So if you guys have seen my videos about like what is flirting, where I tell you flirting is just talking, but with sexual intention. That's it. And it's the same way with day game, is that you're just talking to people. And as long as people in your country, in your culture, in whatever, are allowed to talk to other people, which I actually don't know. It's possible that some cultures really frown on that, but I can't imagine it being the case. So as long as you're able to talk to people, then you can day game. Because the whole point of day game is you just chat with people, and then if there's a connection, if there's chemistry, if you guys are hitting it off, then you invite them somewhere else. And it could be out for a cup of tea if drinking is not an option in your country. It could be, I mean, is there a country that Netflix isn't in? The kid? I'm actually asking. I have no idea.
Uh, I don't use Netflix, but I'm pretty sure Netflix is probably blocked in like China, like
Okay, but China
stuff like
has
that.
other options like drinking.
There's always something, yeah. Like I'm pretty sure Netflix is blocked, possibly in some Middle Eastern countries, or at the very least, I know certain countries censor certain shows on Netflix.
Regardless of the actual brand of Netflix, the concept of Netflix and chill is
Oh, that's
still
everywhere.
always on the table. And that's basically the whole idea of day game is you chat with someone, you build comfort, you make sure that you two actually get along decently, and then you invite them somewhere more private to do private things. That's it. And so putting day game out the window because you think that it's culturally unacceptable is really, really handicapping yourself a lot. And so instead what you should do is you should just treat it 100% like I'm just going to be an outgoing person who just talks to everybody they meet. And we all know someone like that. You may even be someone like that. I am. And so if you just treat it that way as just I'm just going to be someone who goes up and talks to people all the time. Doesn't matter who, doesn't matter about what. I'm just going to talk. Then all of a sudden, day game is back on the table. So I wouldn't count that out. And in fact, I would count that as one of your biggest strengths because if you think day game is not acceptable in your country, then you might be the only guy doing it, which means you fly under the radar even more. So yeah, I think day game is still always the answer. I can't imagine a situation in my mind where like day game is worse than any alternative.
Hmm. I have a question then. So,
Yeah,
like, obviously in this example, right, the person is probably wants to start doing it, right? Are there certain places someone should start? Like, because obviously the first couple times it won't go extremely well. Is there some areas that are better for beginners in a city compared to others?
yeah. Big cities are obviously best because as I went over in my stream about big cities versus small towns, the anonymity that a big city provides you basically shields you from any cultural blowback, social blowback, things like that for failed approaches, because failed approaches will absolutely happen. And not only that, but there will be blunders, there will be mistakes, there will be the wrong words said at the wrong time. Fuck it, right? Like, it happens. You have to accept that as just a part of it. But if you're in a small town of like 500 people, then any misstep in that direction is going to blow back on you far more than if you're in a big city of 5 million people. And fortunately, to my Twitter friend's benefit, he is in a very large city. And I'm obviously not going to out him here, but he's in a very large city, more than large enough that he can safely day game and fuck things up. And it's okay.
Nice.
What do you think,
Okay.
Rich?
Yeah, I think I told you the larger the more places you have to go where you can fuck it and not worry about it, the better.
Yeah.
And if you can travel an hour to the other side of the city just to practice, then you're never going to see anyone from there. So yeah. But if you're in a small town, fuck, you will get a reputation for being that.
So if you're in a small town, your best bet, honestly, is to just like go to the next town over, or like anything else.
Yeah.
Because you do risk ostracization. Is that a word there?
Yeah, that's a word.
Okay,
Yeah.
you do risk ostracization for fucking things up, and you know, especially if you're young and you're like, you want to fuck everything that moves, which is the completely natural thing for all men, then you're going to have a really hard time in a small town anyway. I'd recommend getting out of that, if that's what you want to pursue, because there's no way that in a small town any of this advice can really be effectively applied without a greater risk than cost. Now, if you're in a town of like 300,000 people, so still kind of a small town, but not small, right? Not everybody knows everybody. Then you're okay. You can kind of work with it. You've got a bit of breathing room there. But you're still always going to be better off in a big city.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. I have a question actually.
Yeah.
So so I'm just kind of scrolling trying to find other questions, and then I kind of came across this. It's like, so for a lot of guys, right? They start this stuff and they try to learn it on their own. They're just like kind of going on Twitter, Reddit, finding random blogs, hopefully buying your course, that kind of stuff. But
Uh-huh.
they don't really have maybe friends or people they know that they can connect with and can kind of teach them and show them the way or learn together. How should someone who's maybe getting started go about finding people to kind of learn together?
Join the community.
No, they should. Best way, if we're talking about day game or night game or anything, the best way, just fucking go out and do it. I mean, if you really want to level up and you're serious about it, then the best way is to be alone. Like, if you want to get laid, and also there's no one to, they're making your mind for both reasons not to do it. But when it comes to time, though, and if you have a few nights a week you can go out alone, or you have time in the day, no witnesses. No one's going to notice you. No one knows you. So, and don't become one of those guys who makes excuses. Someone, I need someone to go with. I need someone else from the community, and blah blah blah. And with your dick in your hand, I mean, the main problem there is excuses and say they need a wing or say they need someone. They're always. So you just gotta look yourself in the mirror and just be like, am I gonna keep doing this, and then justify it in my brain that I'm not meeting women because I don't have a buddy to help me, or is it because I'm just an excuse maker? That's it.
I'm actually going to push back on that assertion a bit here.
Okay.
I get where you're coming from, but here's the thing: is that no basketball team has ever won a championship without a coach. If you want to learn how to be good at something, you don't just sit there on the court and shoot free throws by yourself for hours and hours, right? You need someone who's kind of guiding you and pointing you towards, like, here's what you're doing right, here's what you're doing wrong, here's what you need to work on. And not only that, but, oh, I see what you're doing here. That's a good instinct, but here are the pitfalls that I've found from my own experience. And so having a group of guys who can actually tell you that, I've been through this same thing, and these are the things that I found that worked for me. These are the problems that I've found. Try to avoid doing this, try to avoid that, but definitely do this thing and do that thing. It helps to kind of focus the energy a little bit more, because a guy can do 1,000 approaches, but if he's not actually paying attention to what's working and what's not, then he's not going to ever get better, right? He's just going to get the exact same results, and he's playing a pure shotgun approach numbers game, which is, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but that's the way that I learned, and it took me a long ass time to get it figured out. Whereas on the flip side, I was able to take Paul as an example that's so recent in my mind. I was able to take Paul from pro gamer to pro player in what, 90 days, right? And for me, it took about 9 years to like really fucking nail everything down so that I could go up to any girl, get her name, get her number, take her home if I wanted to. And having that level of experience and having someone to kind of focus in your energies and guide you in the right direction and say, no, don't waste your time here. Focus what you're doing on this thing, then that actually helps to expedite the process by a ton. You're right in that nobody should ever have that as an excuse, as in, oh, well, I can't go out because Jack's not
Right.
here. I can't
Yeah.
approach her because Rich isn't here. That should never be an excuse. But
I
to
agree,
have someone to help
Jack. I
guide
agree.
you
Yeah.
is important. And that's where the
I mean,
community comes in.
yeah, I didn't mean like you shouldn't do that. I mean, like, if you don't have available one, then you should still do it. But I
The good
agree
news
with you.
is that our community
Get
is
it.
available no matter where you are in the
Yeah.
world. You can join the Discord. You can chat with us directly. There are literally zero barriers to the entry into a community of like-minded guys who have experience and are happy to help.
Yeah.
Now, we're also not going to hold your dick for you while you piss, right? You're still going to have to take your own steps by yourself. You're still going to have to do the approaches. And especially for guys who are new to game, the biggest problem, just period, flat out, is that they aren't doing enough approaches. Because when you're early to things, the only thing that matters is quantity, is just volume, pure volume. Go out there, do as many approaches as you can, talk to as many girls as you can, because you have a conception of yourself in your mind and you think, I am this kind of guy. I think I act this way in these situations. All right, well, it doesn't matter. until you go out and actually put yourself in those situations. And so for younger guys, for new guys to game, just go out and do 100 approaches. And once you've done that, then you'll have a better conception of actually who you are, not just some theoretical construct in your head. And you'll know where your strengths and weaknesses lie, and you'll know what you need to work on because you've gone out and you've put yourself in that situation. But until then, you're just theorizing.
Yeah.
Which is worthless.
Nice. So it's like in the middle of your two answers, or like you can't have one without the other. But that's good. Nice.
Yeah, I mean, like I was saying, I actually do agree with Rich on his assertion there that you can't make excuses. You need to go out and do your thing. But I do think that having a, for lack of a better term, a kind of support group at bare minimum, like guys who have also been there, so that whenever you say like, "Oh man, I did 20 approaches today and I didn't get a single number," and the guys can commiserate with you and be like, "Oh fuck, dude, like that sucks, but you know, I get it. We've all been there." Now, are you sure that it's not something you're doing wrong? Because you might just have a bad luck day, or also, if you do 20 approaches and get nothing, maybe there's something wrong with your approach. Can you tell us like how you're doing this? What are you doing? And then, okay, cool. There are guys there to help and kind of point you in the right direction, while also the responsibility is still on you to go out and do your
Yeah. Yeah, that's effectively with anything, right? It's
Yeah,
like if you want to get good at something, just start doing it. Don't use it as excuse, but also realize if you have someone who knows more than you, just communicate with them of like, I did this, what's wrong? Okay, thank you. And then you move quicker.
Well, like if you wanted to learn how to play guitar and you get a guitar teacher, then you don't only practice when you're with the teacher, right? Like you're meant to practice during the week between meeting the teacher. And so you still have to do your shit. It works the exact same way. You do your shit so that when you come back, you're better than before. And you can say, okay, teacher, here's the thing that I'm working on. Here's what I've done so far this week. What do you think? Am I focusing my energies in the right direction or not? And like, you use them as a resource, not as a crutch. And that's the way that you actually learn things and get better.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's basically my take. If you want to improve, if you want to actually get things done, I may be particularly biased to it, but join our Discord community. And I have to say, you know, the other day I actually opened up one of my chatting apps where I'm in the Real Korea uh, chatting group, and it's a bunch of guys who talk about game, and that it's meant to be quite similar to my community. But the thing is that chat room is so fucking toxic. Everyone in there is really negative on each other. They're all just trying to like one up each other and alpha male each other out. And I'm grateful eternally that our community is not like that at all. That anytime someone has a question, anytime someone has an issue, they bring it to the community, and everyone's very helpful. They all jump in and answer questions. And whenever people report their successes or their frustrations or whatever it is, then everyone is really supportive. It's a great group, and that's largely because we keep it that way. I've had to remove people who did not fit that mold.
Yes.
So yeah, that's my thoughts on it.
Okay.
Anything else before we go ahead and wrap it up for the day?
No, I think that's a good note to end it up on. It's
Cool.
solid,
Well,
wholesome moment.
we're up against the clock. It's an hour in, and I think this is as good a time as any to go ahead and wrap this up. So, Big Rich, thank you for joining us. The Kid, thank you for joining. I really do appreciate it. And for those of you who have sat through my video-less stream, thank you. And join the community, join the Discord community. I don't even remember if we have links in the description or whatever, but fuck it. If it's not there, you can find the community link on thesoulplayer.com. You can find it on realjacknorth.com. Find that and all of our other stuff as well. And if this stream has been in any way helpful, interesting, entertaining, anything at all to you, please consider hitting the like and subscribe button, because it actually does help with the algorithm. It helps to feed the YouTube monster. I know, everybody says it, but the fact is that the only way that any of this message gets out to people is if you guys who are watching right now actually hit those buttons. So give me that nice little thumbs up and hit the subscribe button, hit the bell so that you know whenever we're going live. And with all that said, I will catch you all next time. Papa Jack out.